So I wanted to share a little bit about my experience. Oh, hang on a second. Sorry guys, this is all gone. Just had a little technical issue. So I'm going to share with you now, in the most simple and easy way that I can, the steps to recovery. So it's my intention with this video, is obviously it's only short, but to be able to help you really get an understanding, and to have those tools so that you can actually start to make some changes and start your recovery. So obviously there's layers to each individual experience of anxiety, and this is a general video, but like I just shared, I had relationship anxiety, but there's also PTSD, health anxiety, environmental anxiety, OCD, and all these things, and they're basically biologically the same. We just have different catalysts, so different experiences that started them off, and therefore different triggers to feeling it. So step one is to basically understand the biology. So anxiety, in its most basic description, is actually fear. But obviously, fear is a very normal human experience. And actually, when we have our fear response triggered, it's designed to save our life. We've had it since humans evolved. Animals have a fear response, and it basically floods your body with hormones like adrenaline to be able to save your life in life-threatening situations. So that's what's actually happening in your body when you have anxiety. Your fear response is activated. The problem is, with anxiety, it's not a fleeting moment of fear to save your life and then it comes back down. Obviously, in caveman days, if they saw a tiger, they'd be able to run away. And then once you were safe, your fear response would turn off and the hormones would disappear. They don't disappear, you know what I mean. The hormone level would come down and you'd feel relaxed and back to normal. When you have anxiety, your hormone levels aren't coming back down. And because it's almost like artificially raised, you cannot, that's very noisy. Hopefully that you guys can't hear that. Because they've been artificially raised, the levels are staying really high all the time. So you're like on this constant state of alertness because your brain believes that you need that fear, because you've accidentally trained it to believe that you need that fear and you need to be on edge. So that's fundamentally what's going on, and that's why you feel shaky, your heart might race, you might get hot and sweaty, and you have these racing thoughts. They're all typical experiences of anxiety, because that's what the fear hormones do. It's designed to pump up your body ready to flee or to fight or to hide, and when we're not running away or using it, it's very, very uncomfortable. And it's also designed to, because it's designed to save your life, it's designed to risk assess your environment and look for the danger. So that's why when you have anxiety, you are constantly overthinking and you get these like racing thoughts, because your brain's like, where's the danger, where's the danger, where's the danger? So you're not relaxed and you're not yourself. You're like hyper alert and very, very narrowly focused on your own survival. And that's why it feels so horrific and so uncomfortable. Because when your brain can't find the obvious danger, like, oh, tiger, it makes it up and it goes over and over and over, maybe a past experience that you've had. And even though the evidence suggests that that's not going to happen, because you're so hypersensitive to it and you've got all these hormones, from one tiny experience, it believes, okay, this is going to happen. So a really good example of this relationship anxiety might be that as soon as you're in a relationship and that person doesn't text you back straight away, or you don't hear from them for a day, your hypersensitive fear to rejection, your body thinks, oh no, this is the danger. It floods you with adrenaline and fear hormones, so you cannot think about anything else other than, I'm about to be rejected, it's going to go wrong, I'm not loved, etc. Which actually isn't the case. It's just that your brain goes straight there because of these hormones. That's what they're designed to do. They're designed to find the danger. And so when you can understand this, you can start to know that you're not going crazy, you're not mental, it's just a normal biological response that at the moment you have too much of, it's like your hormone levels have been reset, and instead of being at zero and then just triggered when it's needed in stressful situations, it's been reset up here. And so it's triggered very, very, very easily. You're very, very sensitive around that area and that topic. And what will happen is, because you focus on the fear, and then we fear the fear, we don't understand why we feel on edge, why we're having these dark thoughts, why our heart's racing and our chest is tight, and we start to worry about that. That increases the fear hormones, and that sort of thing leads to panic attacks, where the fear hormones get so much we can't contain it anymore and we have to use it up. So so that's why unchecked anxiety can spiral and get worse and worse. So it did for me. It started off just being, triggered around being rejected in relationships, and then because it went unchecked, it became not just love relationships but friendship relationships. I start to look around me and think that I was unlovable and that nobody liked me, and then I start to withdraw from my friends and other relationships as well, and start to feel very alone and be even more sensitive and even more easily triggered in anything to do with relationships, connections, love, and being close to people. So in everybody else's experience that wasn't true, but because my body was filled with fear hormones and it was focused on survival, it was like, where's the danger, nobody loves you, this isn't going to be okay, you need to avoid, otherwise you're going to experience pain and rejection. Yeah, but it wasn't going to happen. It's just that's what the fear hormones tell you is going to happen. So this is so cool and important to know, because it's not you, it's kind of just your body and a hormone, and because it is that, it can be reset and we can bring it back down to normal. And you can also know that what you're thinking about and worrying about, the fear, isn't real either. It's just because you're uber sensitive now. And your body's reacting like you're going into a war zone, or you're having, some sort of serious life-threatening thing might happen. That's why it feels so awful, but it's actually not. And even when you play it through, which we'll go through in a minute, when you actually think about what's the worst that could happen, you realise that it's not life-threatening and it's something you actually could handle. So, so that's step one, just understanding the biology. And in the challenge, we're going to go through this in more detail and in more experiential way, talking and discussing it, so that you can really, really fully understand this. Because this is actually really big once you know why you feel the way you do, and that it is just hormones and not real. So step two is understanding your specific experience. So understanding your catalyst, or the event or experience that triggered it and started this for you. So if you're following along with this video now, it might be really interesting for you to think, when did I first start feeling this? Think about what situations you get anxious the most. So in my experience, it would be when I was in a relationship. When I wasn't in a relationship, I didn't have it until it got a lot worse. But it would only really be in a relationship when I wasn't getting attention or something like that, where I felt like it could go wrong, and so I would have this fear irrationally around rejection. So think about, for you, it started for me with similar experiences of rejection from my parents, and then in this relationship when I was in my early 20s. So those two catalysts then became the theme of my anxiety. So have a think back to when it might have started off. What do you get triggered the most? Is it meeting new people? Is it around rejection, or you might worry that person's going to reject you, so you push them away first, or you get really needy? Is it around your health? Do you focus on germs? Just have a think about what it is for you. Is it around eating in front of people and being judged? And then have a think about, when have I had this experience? an experience where I actually felt real fear or humiliation, you know, strong emotion, and it might be more than one experience, usually it is. And that's going to be your catalyst. So once you can understand, oh, I went through this experience and that made me feel real fear and worry and humiliation or whatever it was, then you can change the story. Now, this is kind of difficult to do on your own. So I totally invite you to get some help, join the free challenge, book a call for help with this. But what I mean by changing the story is look at that experience with fresh eyes, and can you take your power back, and that you weren't a victim in that moment. It was just that energy, meeting that energy. It was necessary for you to learn what you needed to learn. Maybe it was a powerful growth experience. You don't know if there was other people involved. You don't know their experience. It might not have been their attention, etc., etc. So you want to see if you can just change the story of what those experiences or that experience meant to you. And then it will shift in your body. So it's taking the power back and looking at it from a fresh perspective and seeing if you can go, you know, is that necessarily true? Was that experience exactly like it felt at the time? Or could it have been something different for someone else or for anyone else involved? So that's changing the story. And then once you know that that's your specific trigger, you'll be aware of it. When you do get triggered, you know it's going to be around that kind of theme. So for me, around the theme of rejection, because of those experiences of rejection, when I look back, I could change the story of, I didn't know how to love myself. I didn't know how to meet my own emotional needs, and I was needy for love. So I attracted someone who was going to teach me very powerfully that losing myself for love is not healthy. And pleasing and giving everything to get love is also not healthy. So without those experiences, I wouldn't have had that very powerful lesson. So I could change that story rather than me being a victim of emotional abuse and being manipulated, by a parent, by a partner. Actually, no, I can see that was necessary for my growth. I can see their wounds, the wounds of those people involved, why they might need to behave that way, all comes from fear as well and need for control. So I was changing that story so it didn't hold such a powerful emotion over me anymore. And then next time I felt the adrenaline, I felt the fear come up, around rejection, I could be like, okay, well, I know it's just from that past experience. It doesn't necessarily mean that this person's going to treat me the same, and I know that I've just got high hormones because of that past experience. I have overplayed it in my mind and kept those fear hormones high, and I'm just uber sensitive to it happening again. My body's just trying to protect me from it happening again. These are hormones that aren't going to hurt me. And that kind of brings me to the next step. Step 3 is to actually start bringing these hormones down. So when you feel it, I want you to know what the sensations of the hormones are. When you feel the fear, you can actively bring them down by doing exactly what I just said. So step 1 is reminding yourself that what you're feeling is literally just fear hormones that are uber sensitive and, inappropriately triggered. They don't need to be there. You're not actually in real danger. So you've got to teach and train your brain that we don't need fear right now. Actually, everything's okay. So you remind yourself that these are just fear hormones that you're feeling. They're not needed and they are completely harmless. Even when your chest gets tight and your heart races and all those sensations that it gives you, they are completely harmless. And then you're going to reassure yourself. So that's kind of reassuring yourself as well. And you can also play through what's the worst that could happen. So for me, I could play through the worst that could happen is they will reject me. Okay, well, what would I do then? Would I survive? Yes. And actually, if they do reject me, they don't love me for me. And don't I want to be loved for me and find the right partner? So isn't that actually a blessing in disguise? So you start to play through the scenario and then you divert your attention. Distract yourself. Once you've reassured yourself, literally focus on something outside of you. Like literally if I was here, I'd just look at the leaves, I'd count like what coloured plants I could see, and that will teach your brain that you're safe and the hormones will come down.